This is a video contest entry to Jeff Whitcher's Vinyl Destination um, contest where he's celebrating 1,000 subscribers to his YouTube channel. And congratulations, Jeff. Well, one day I'll get there. But yeah, check out his channel. It's Jeff Whitcher, Whitcher, Vinyl Destination. He's a great guy, very entertaining, always got something funny to say. He collects a lot of great vinyl, great videos, so check him out. You won't be disappointed. And I'm not just saying that because I'm entering a contest. It's the truth. I've been a subscriber for his for a little while, and I've never been disappointed with his videos. I always check him out. He always got something funny to say. But anyway, he's to celebrate his 1,000 subscribers. His contest consists of who's your favorite band and why. When did you hear about them or got into them? What do you love about their music, and why is the band so great? Well, many of you know, and some of you don't. But anyway, I'm a huge Beatles fan. I have been since I was 14 years old, and back in 1984. I owed it to my dad because he introduced me to them by letting me listen to a Beatle record, the only Beatle record he had. I'll get into that in a minute. But yeah, they're my favorite band. I got a lot of, I listen to other people, but they're really my favorite band. I call them my core band because they were the really first group I really got enraptured in. I think they're great. It's just something about them that really, draws you to them in a sense. I think it's their songwriting. Just because their songwriting, they got more than one songwriter. Obviously, everybody knows. All four of them wrote. Well, Ringo wrote 2 songs, but towards the end of their group era, but everybody, had a chance to write. Everybody wrote for the most part, and it made them a unique band because then you have 4 minds going to the center, contributing. You just don't have one principal songwriter and one principal one lead singer. It was them collectively that made them so great. And like I said, I don't think there was a band like them up to that point. Like Creedence Clearwater Revival. John Fogerty wrote all the songs and sang all the songs. So you had one songwriter, one lead singer. That's the only. John Fogerty was a good writer and a good singer. I'm not taking that away, but the other members didn't contribute writing. He was it, and that's how it was. But the Beatles, in the beginning, John and Paul wrote majority of the songs. George, he wrote one song on With the Beatles or Meet the Beatles, depending on how you want to look at it. Yeah, I think it was on that album. But they all collectively melded together on albums, and that's what made them so great. And that's why I like them so much. It's just you got everybody's thought process all mixed together, and made some great music. When did I get into the Beatles? Again, I was 14 years old. It was about 1984. I don't remember exactly how it came about. I think I was telling my dad, how the songs just don't resonate music don't resonate with me. I mean, there are some good songs. I like 80s music. More so probably now than then, because I was just real young. But it all kind of sounded the same. The drumming, wasn't the drums wasn't played like maybe like back in the day and stuff. I really don't remember exactly how it came about, so long ago. But anyway, my dad had one Beatles record. He wasn't really that big. My dad was a Rolling Stones fan. He gave me a lot of his Rolling Stone records that he bought back in the '60s. I'm not a Stones guy. I just have them here in my collection, but I don't listen to them. And a lot of his records are all beat up, But anyway, but he did have this record, and he let me listen to it. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I was just freakingly hooked to him. I remember that, and I listened to this thing over and over and over, and I just couldn't. I never got tired of it. I just got over and over. I kept listening to it. It was the only Beatle record I had, and once I listened to it, I was hooked. I was hooked, and it was the Beatles' "Let It Be" album. Believe it or not, this is my introduction to the Beatles. Not their greatest album by some people's standards, but it's a great album. And I played this thing to freaking death. I played one side to the other side, flipped it over, and played it again and again. And that's not an exaggeration. And again and again and again. I couldn't get enough. They're singing and they're playing. Just the talent that was there. And I'm sure I may have heard them on the radio, but I didn't know who they were, radio play. You're a kid, you don't really pay attention, in the 70s and stuff. You didn't really pay attention. But this record got me into the Beatles. And I couldn't get enough. He had a couple of 45s. He had She's a Woman. I Feel Fine, She's a Woman, and what was that other one that he had? Oh, Help / I'm Down. That was the only two Beatles 45s he had. And he let me listen to them, and I played them over and over and over and over again. I just couldn't get enough. I was just addicted to them. Yeah, and I have two younger brothers. The youngest brother, he had a little friend that lived across the street from us where we used to live. And when I got to know his parents, his parents were Beatles fans, and they had a lot of Beatle records and solo Beatle records, and they knew me well enough. They let me borrow their records. I go home across the street, and I'd go put my record player, and I'd listen to it and listen to it and listen to it. I used to I had a record player, and we had in that house we had linoleum floors, and I used to set the speakers on that hard floor. And my younger brother had a boombox from the '80s. Y'all remember the boom boxes back then? And I used to get my dad to buy me some blank cassette tapes, and I put the cassette tape in there. I get it, and I borrow the tape, the boombox from my brother, and I set it in front of the speakers, which is not the best fidelity, with all that background noise, air and stuff. But I used to tape their records. I'd borrow them and go tape them, play them back, and they let me come over anytime I wanted if they were home. And they let me go through, and it was like a they had a library full of them, and I just couldn't get enough. And my younger brother, I had the boombox. He had a friend who lived down the next block. His dad was a Beatles fan, and he let me borrow his Beatle records and all the solo stuff, and I'd play them and tape them. I was just addicted to them things. And I couldn't get enough because I didn't have no money really. I was only 14, so I couldn't go to a rec store and buy my own stuff. But eventually, my mom started buying me them. The records, and the first Beatle record I got, I think, was Sgt. Pepper. My parents got it for me for Christmas one year back then, and then my mom bought me a few others down the line until I got older. I got but I had my own money, and then I got a whole collection of Beatle records back here. It was from then it was on then. I just couldn't get enough. What do you love about their music and why? or what do you love about their music? What I love about their music, they were very innovative. Um, they they took cover tunes. Now, I'm not big on bands doing other people's music because sometimes they'll butcher the original. You know, they'll try to make it their own, but they'll butcher the original. It won't even sound like the original. And I understand they're trying to make it like their own. I understand that. But the Beatles did such a great job on cover tunes in the early days on their first, let's see, up to about 60, up to Help on the, I'm doing the British catalog. Up to Help, you know, they did cover tunes, you know, from time to time. Beatles for Sale was heavy on them. With the Beatles had, you know, and Please Please Me. The only one that didn't have any early on was A Hard Day's Night album. It was all originals. But they were always did a good job on cover tunes. Especially, they say, I read on Rock and Roll Music by Chuck Berry, the Beatles did a better job on that song than Chuck Berry did on his original. So that what goes to show you. And then when you get into the experimental phase, especially in the mid 60s, 66, 67, they started pushing. They want to experiment more, and they were thinking outside the box. They didn't want to stay just a pop band. They were thinking outside the box. They want to experiment more. George Martin was like, because going the fifth Beatle, he helped them with that. They did like a song "I'm Only Sleeping," did backward guitar on that. Tomorrow Never Knows backward tape loops and whatnot. George took interest in the sitar, and the first sitar on a pop album was a Norwegian Wood on Rubber Soul. He didn't play it too good. You know, he didn't really, it's hard to play from my understanding, but he did a well enough job that it contributed. It was first sitar on a pop album, you know. And then the Rolling Stones, I think, used it on Paint It Black in 1966. So they took the influence from that, you know. And then you get into Strawberry Fields Forever. You know, it's complicated as it sounds. You know, it's a complicated song with all these different mix, you know, they tempos and stuff, and they take tapes together, and the tempos change in the middle of the song. Who did that then? Nobody. They did. Sergeant Pepper. They had a four-track machine and made Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. As complex as it sounds, as the record sounds, they took four-track machine and made Sergeant Pepper out of it. When it should have took an 8-track machine in the real world. They all had with 4 tracks. I don't think they had 8-track back then. I don't know. But they took a 4-track machine, made Sergeant Pepper out of it, did all the mixing and whatnot. And, you know, they had horns. Nobody had horns before in pop music. They did, you know, French horns, brass, all kind of, you know, like on Day in a Life, that big orchestra buildup, you know, on Day in a Life. Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, that I think it might have been played on a harpsichord or something. You know, who did that back then? You know, on the beginning of Sergeant Pepper, all the music, all the crowd sound at the beginning of the Sergeant Pepper album sounded like there was an audience. I mean, who did that except them? You know, they were so innovative. They thought outside the box and they progressed. You know, I could go on, but that's what I love about their music. They thought outside the box, especially in the mid '60s, and they got better and better and better. George Harrison just blossomed. I would say from 1965 on, where he really started writing. You know, he really blossomed by the end of the '60s. I mean, he wrote some great songs. So, you know, and all of them contributed. You know, George got a track or two. Ringo got a track on an album. You know, it's just they all contributed. They just gelled. You know, and they stayed. You know, Beatly. They didn't one didn't go off in one crazy direction. They all kind of stayed in the same mind frame, and they were just a unique band. And that goes back to why is this band so great? Because it was just them. They were just that so much talent between the four of them, and was it a mistake that Pete Best, or not a mistake, was it destined that Pete Best get fired from the band? Yes, I think there was. I think if Pete Best was still in the band, I can't really speculate, but I don't think they've been as good as when Ringo was drumming, because I just think they were destined to be them four. So, because like I said, why they're such a great band, because like I said, they thought outside the box, especially in the mid '60s. A lot of it contributed to from Jordan Martin, and him helping them producing this stuff, and even on the White Album, they were all over the map on the White Album. I mean, they had ballads, they had rock, they had stories in a song, love songs, a gentle song like Julia and I Will, a collage of, not really a song, but a collage of sounds and beeps and stuff on Revolution 9, which mainly was John Lennon's just junky put together. But I used to hate that song, but I deal with it now. I kind of like it. I won't go to it just to listen to it, but I'll let the needle go through the track. I used to skip over it, but I don't do it no more. But because they were just so talented, and it was a shame they broke up, But I think by that time, their talent got the best of them, and they just couldn't. They couldn't contain it just on the number of songs each of them got on the album. They had to spread their wings, and so to speak, part of punk, spread their wings. But anyway, yeah, I just think they're just a great band. There's never been a band like them ever. That shares vocals and singing, except for Badfinger that came after them, which unfortunately they didn't last too long due to certain business circumstances and whatnot. But I'm not gonna get into that. But they were like the Beatles of the '70s, had they lasted through the whole decade, But yeah, I just think they're just a great band, and this younger generation coming along listens to them. This young generation, generations, in generations I've listened to the Beatles, and I'm glad this younger generation has taken some interest. That's why I think a lot of times, that's the reason why they releasing all this stuff on vinyl again, because the demand's so high for it. I mean, you hear bands come and go, and you don't hear about them no more. These guys will never. The knowledge and their music of this group will never go away. So that's my contest entry for Jeff Whitcher's Vinyl Destination. And congratulations, Jeff, on your 1,000 subs. And that's all I got. Y'all take care.